What makes a great slide deck and presentation that leads to interaction, rapport, and ultimately sales? So I want to lead with, if you've ever been to a Tony Robbins event. Tony Robbins is notorious for never letting the audience go more than about 8 minutes without doing what's called a state break. A state break is where you grab somebody's attention and they start paying attention to you. One of the most natural ways to do this is to describe things in detail when you're telling a story. Tony Robbins does this by getting people to jump up, talk to their neighbors, give them a massage, dance for a little bit.
And you look at somebody, point and go, I own you. No, I own you. No, I own you. I count to 3. Let's clap together on 3. Go crazy. 1.
He knows that if he doesn't give them a state break, that people will start to do this on their own. You see this on webinars where people wander off. They get on Facebook, they're on their phone, they turn their camera off, they walk away and they stop paying attention. Well, how do you get them to start paying attention? There are a couple different ways that we do this. The first one is your slides. So the slides that you use should never have more than about 12 to 15 words on them max. The reason is because if it has more than that, people are reading it and they're not paying attention to you. They're getting overwhelmed, they're reading, they're trying to listen to you. It's too much. You want the slides to always be a supportive role to you presenting. So you want to use pictures that are highly emotional. By using pictures that are emotional, people will feel the emotion just by glancing at it, but they'll be listening to you talk. There's not a bunch for them to read. They're not like trying to read through something and listen at the same time. It creates a challenge when you do that. So good emotional pictures and then a few words. I usually use bullet points. I usually have a headline across the top, picture, maybe 2 or 3 pictures on a lot of slides that come in. The other thing is, if you think about the way that we watch television or movies, when we're watching, the scene changes every 4 to 5 seconds. It either zooms in or it zooms out or it changes the angle. And we're so ingrained to doing this that we expect that from webinar.
Of course, what I'm talking about is moving from one moment to another, one scene to another, jumping in time, whatever it is. How you choose to move from one place to the next will have a massive effect on your audience. And I think
when we see something that is like, this is a talking head video, I need to go in, I need to go out, I need to do things to grab your attention because that's how we're used to consuming information. And if we don't do that on our webinar presentation, people will tune out really fast. So how do you do this? Have multiple pictures per slide, or have a headline, then a picture, and then bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. Or just have a lot of slides. So some of my slide decks have had more than 400 slides. I'm not trying to overwhelm you with that. It started off as about 60, and then we added in more and more, and we built it out so that this keeps people engaged. The other thing that you want to do is occasionally throughout your webinar, if it is live, you want to turn the slides off and go just to talking to them. If you can, you want to interact with the people that are there. You want to call them out. If you're doing it as a Zoom room, which is what I recommend, you can see all the people and you can talk to them. You can do a mini hot seat. You can take some questions over what you're teaching. This breaks up the monotony of just having slide decking and gets them to interact with you. So those are just a few of the key pieces that you want to use on your slide deck and state breaks. The other thing, we hinted at this earlier, is you want to always describe things. When you are describing things, if I say, I went out to a great dinner, you're like, eh. But if I say, I went out to a dinner and I sat down, they brought me some grilled asparagus with fresh garlic shaved over top that had been cooked in olive oil and just smelled amazing. From there, we went into a 86-ounce tomahawk ribeye that was about 3 inches thick. They set it down on the table and I could smell how good it smelled. They had fresh pepper over top. It was this juicy steak and we cut into it and it just melted in my mouth. By describing that, if you like steak, your mouth is probably watering. If you like asparagus, you probably know what that smells like, right? when you describe something, it takes people into the scene with you. A really good book on this is it's by Stephen King, and it's called On Writing. The first half is a description of his life. The second half is how to write with description. It's the same thing that we want to do here. You can read it in an afternoon. I would highly recommend it because it will help you start describing things more. You can do this in your email, your social media posts as well, and it will get more readership because it puts people in the scene with you. This is a key to great storytelling. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but these are the things that make a really good presentation. So we talked about the slide deck. We talk about using descriptions and pulling people in. Those descriptions can be used as state breaks, by the way. Every 6 to 8 minutes, if you have one of those in, it will re-energize the room. They will come back and they'll pay attention to you. The last piece is inclusive language. So inclusive language is language that you use that gets people to relate what you're doing to them. So inclusive language is when you're going along and you're like, does it make sense to you? Can you see how you would use this in your business? Can you see how you might use this to help grow your personal relationships, or how you might overcome specific challenge that they have? This is getting them to future pace themselves, which we talked about how important that is, and it gets them to start seeing themselves using what you're teaching. And by using inclusive language, you reach through the screen and you make it seem like they are right there with you. So these are the 3 key points that you want to use to give a great presentation that builds engagement, rapport, and ultimately sales. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the different lengths of webinars, how you use them, and there's going to be one surprise in there that I think is really going to blow your mind. But we'll get to that. It talks about how long your webinar should be. This is the first set of videos, and this set of videos is just here to let you know what to expect, what goes into making great webinars, so that when we dive into it, you'll know exactly why we're doing what we're doing. This is kind of the theory, and then we're going to get into the tactics in the next couple of videos. I'll see you there. Are you looking to scale your business but trying to figure out how to get your message across? Well, go to storyselling.how to grab my free course that will show you how to discover everything that you need to build your business through stories. These stories work whether it's in social media, email, or public speaking. There are 5 core stories that you'll learn. You'll be able to use all of them by the time you're done with this course. Again, that is storyselling.how. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to tune in next time.